The story begins with a girl who comes to a house to work as a babysitter, which means taking care of the children of a family. However, when the girl arrives at the house, no one is around. The house is completely empty. She calls her mother and tells her that she will stay there for a few days as she was supposed to do babysitting. Suddenly, the girl starts hearing strange noises coming from the basement, so she decides to check it out, thinking everyone must be in the basement. As she goes into the basement, she sees another woman who is eating her own children. This scene is extremely horrifying, and the girl gets scared. She runs to save her life, but the dangerous woman notices her. Although the woman tries to escape through the door, her husband arrives and locks it. The ruthless woman then catches the girl and kills her. What happened to this woman, and why is she taking everyone's life? There's a shocking reason behind it that will be revealed soon. Some time later, the story shifts to a moment where a boy named Ben has come to visit his father's house with his younger brother. His father lived in the town, and the worst part was that Ben's parents were about to divorce. That's why Ben often travels to this place with his brother. Ben's father worked in a factory and wanted Ben to follow in his footsteps, as he held a high position in the factory. Ben notices that a family has moved in next door, a wife, husband, and their 2 children. When Ben asks his father about them, he simply says that they are probably here for a vacation and that he has no other information about them. Ben, after years of being away, starts exploring the area and talks to people his age. But, as expected, a fight breaks out between Ben and some boys. However, a girl named Malini takes him away from the situation. During these events, Ben and Malini become good friends. Later, near the forest, a woman named Abby is seen traveling with her son. Actually, this is the same family that used to live in the apartment next to Ben's father's place. Abby, along with her son, continues walking, but her son, moving a little slower, falls behind. Abby starts searching for him, but her son keeps traveling and ends up at a place where, beneath a tree, there is a cave. From inside the cave, he hears strange noises, as though his mother is calling him. On the tree above, there's a triangular-shaped mark, which he clicks a photo of. As he looks inside the cave, he sees a hand reaching out. This scene is terrifying, and the boy gets scared, quickly leaving the place and returning to find his mother, Abby. While driving, Abby accidentally hits a deer, which dies on the spot. Instead of leaving the deer's body there, she brings it home in her truck. When her husband asks why she brought it home, Abby casually says that they can eat its meat, as deer meat is rare. She then asks her son to bring a knife and starts cutting the deer's body. However, the body is messy, and its innards start spilling out, causing both Abby and her son to get covered in blood. Abby soon realizes that she can't handle this, so she cancels the plan and throws the deer's body aside, leaving it there overnight. But the real danger is yet to come. The next morning, the body of the deer starts changing. A strange creature emerges, tearing through the body. The creature has 2 legs and 2 arms, and although it looks frightening, it moves slowly toward their apartment. Meanwhile, Ben, having woken up to some noises, notices unusual movement near Abby's house. He grabs a flashlight and heads over to check. However, it's clear that the creature won't make itself easily visible. Abby's husband also wakes up and sees Ben, telling him that there's nothing here. Abby's husband tells Ben that it was probably just a small animal, and it must have run away, so Ben can go back and sleep peacefully. But then, we see that the dangerous creature is right behind Ben, staring at him. However, for now, the creature doesn't attack, so Ben walks away. Next, we see Abby's son playing around a pit, throwing wood inside, when Ben arrives and warns him that there could be dangerous animals around. After this, Ben leaves to explore more. Abby, meanwhile, takes her younger son to the garden area, where she notices that all the flowers and plants have withered, as though someone had cast a spell on them. Abby begins to feel like someone might be watching them from the lower path. We already know what the terrifying thing is, but how it will attack the family remains to be seen. Now, Ben is by the riverbank, where his father was in love with another woman and wanted to start a new life with her. His father wanted Ben to meet her, but Ben wasn't interested because he felt his father had left his mother because of this woman. Despite this, his father had fixed a meeting with her without asking Ben, hoping to include her in the family. Ben shows no interest, so he goes with Malini to a party with her friends. They all have a great time, and Ben starts to like Malini more, spending more time with her. Meanwhile, Abby's son is seen playing near a boat, and Ben approaches him, asking what he is doing there. The boy simply replies that his father is coming to give him a ride. Ben tells him that he can give him a ride, but only if the boy promises to come and tell him immediately if he senses anything strange near their home. The boy agrees. Back at Abby's house, her younger son is playing on a swing when suddenly, a figure appears near the swing. The only thing visible are its glowing eyes. Abby's son's body starts to turn completely black, and the creature slowly approaches him. At that moment, Abby wakes up and rushes to check on her younger son, but she becomes extremely worried when she realizes he is missing. She tries to wake her husband, but just as she does, the dark figure attacks her and drags her away to an unknown place. Ben, now in his car, arrives at the scene and sees Abby dragging her son into the forest. Ben wants to follow her, but before he can, his father arrives. Ben's father is furious, as he had set up a dinner meeting with his lover that evening. He grabs Ben and drags him inside, scolding him. Ben, however, firmly tells his father that he doesn't want to meet the woman who caused his parents' separation. The woman overhears this conversation, and feeling humiliated, decides to leave. Ben's father, already madly in love with her, had abandoned Ben's mother for her. However, Ben is unaware of the strange events happening at Abby's house. The next morning, when Abby's son goes to check on her, he finds Abby behaving very strangely. She starts tearing off her clothes and acts in a terrifying manner, with eyes full of fear and madness. Abby's son is horrified but can't tell anyone about it. Her husband is away, so he doesn't notice anything unusual. The boy, terrified, rushes to Ben's house. When Ben sees Abby's son at his house, he asks what he's doing there. The boy, scared, simply says, "I don't want to go back home. I'm afraid of my mother." At that moment, we see that Abby has come to Ben's house, knowing that her son is there. Her face shows no expression, as if she's come to take her son back, possibly to harm him. Ben, seeing this, lies and says, "Your son isn't here." Abby, now desperate, tries to force her way inside Ben's house. Thankfully, Abby's husband arrives, and upon seeing him, Abby's son quickly runs to his father. Abby then calms down and quietly goes back inside her house with her family. However, Ben starts to feel suspicious about what is happening. He senses that something is wrong and decides to keep an eye on their family, suspecting that there's something hidden. Ben begins observing them, paying attention to their behavior. Everything seems fine, but Abby's actions seem increasingly strange. We notice that Abby's body is changing in odd ways, with marks appearing all over her skin. It seems as though she has been possessed, and her behavior is becoming more demonic and sinister. Her face, too, becomes more terrifying over time. Meanwhile, Abby's two sons and her husband are living with the growing threat, unaware of the danger that looms over them. Ben, meanwhile, is by the river, talking to Malini. He's waiting for Abby's son to come to him so he can finally ask what is going on at their house. But after waiting for a long time, the boy doesn't show up. This makes Ben worried, so he goes directly to Abby's house to investigate. When he knocks on the door, Abby's husband answers. Ben asks about his son, but Abby's husband seems to have no idea who Ben is talking about. He claims to have no knowledge of any missing son and denies everything. After this, Abby's husband quickly shuts the door and asks Ben to leave. Ben is left puzzled. If their son is indeed missing, how could they act like everything is normal? Ben realizes he needs to find out what has happened to the child. As Ben leaves, he notices strange marks on the ground, triangular-shaped marks, which are the same ones Abby's son had seen earlier on the tree branches. Ben finds this odd, so he returns home and starts searching online about these marks. After gathering information, he discovers that these marks are associated with a dangerous demon that used to live beneath a tree in the forest. This switch has such powers that it can enter any person's body and control everything inside. Externally, the person remains the same, but internally, the demon takes full control and does whatever it wishes. This demon has a particular liking for drinking children's blood, so it first controls the parents of the targeted children and slowly starts drinking their blood. Ben now understood that the demon might be inside Abby, and this meant that both her children were in grave danger. Although Ben knew all of this, he couldn't share it with the police, as who would believe such bizarre claims? So, Ben decided to tell his friend Milani everything. Milani believed him, but she too was somewhat taking all of it casually. For the time being, both Ben and Milani decided to keep an eye on Abby and her family. Ben observed that Abby was sneaking out of the basement, which meant that she was doing something there, something that needed to be discovered immediately. Abby's husband was also behaving strangely, which made Ben even more concerned. Milani suggested writing a note saying that they knew what was hidden in the basement and leaving it near their house. When Abby's husband saw the note, he rushed to inform Abby. However, when the demon inside Abi learned about this, it whispered something in her husband's ear, causing blood to start flowing from his ear. He was unable to walk properly, and his behavior became even more aggressive. For now, Ben and Milani couldn't do anything more. They continued to watch the family to see what their next move would be. One day, Ben noticed that Abi, dressed in a red outfit, was leaving the basement and heading towards the forest. Seizing the opportunity, Ben immediately broke into the basement and began exploring. He discovered that the area was filled with animal bones, and strange structures had been built there, looking like they were part of a dangerous ritual. Ben took several photos of the place and realized that Abi and her husband were involved in something far more sinister than he had imagined. And there was a photo of her son, in which Abi, the demon inside her, marks a cross on anyone she targets. Ben probably realized that she might have killed her own child. But the shock came when another photo appeared, and it wasn't just anyone's photo, it was of his friend Milani and her sisters. Abi had marked a cross on Milani's youngest daughter's photo, meaning that the next target was her family. So, Ben quickly rushed to protect Milani's daughter. But unfortunately, the demon inside Abi had already reached there and started taking Milani's daughter with it into the forest. They reached the place with a cave just under a tree. Ben followed them there and tried to save Milani's sister. But by the time he reached, the dangerous demon had started pulling Milani's sister down. Ben tried to pull her up, but the demon's grip was much stronger than Ben's. The demon pulled Milani's sister inside and Ben fell back, hitting his head and becoming unconscious. After a while, Ben opened his eyes to find that the whole night had passed. He returned home, but he noticed that many police officers were at his house, questioning his father. Actually, Abi had complained to the police that Ben was spying on her family through her window. However, Ben's father managed to convince the police that there was nothing to worry about. After the police left, Ben's father scolded him severely. Ben tried to explain to his father that something was wrong with Abi's family, that a demon had attacked them and was controlling their bodies, and now it was slowly feeding on children's blood. But obviously, Ben's father didn't believe in such things and scolded Ben even more. Now, it turns out that the lady Ben's father had been interested in was also staying with them. When Ben went to meet her, he was shocked because wherever she went, the flowers would wilt completely. Ben immediately realized that the demon had taken over this lady as well, and now it was likely inside his father too. And the demon realized that it would completely finish him. So, it tried to attack Ben with a knife, but Ben retaliated with a knife of his own and injured the lady. When Ben's father heard the screams, he rushed inside and quickly pulled his son away, telling him that he had gone crazy. He then called the police and handed Ben over to them. Ben kept trying to explain that he was innocent and that the lady was possessed by a demon, which was putting their lives in danger, but his father didn't trust him. When the police officers took Ben to the station, one of the officers was staring at him strangely. It then became clear that the officer had blood dripping from his ears, meaning the demon had already taken control of him. The officer then took Ben to the seaside, dragged him out of the car, and tried to drown him in the water. Nearby, there were 2 dogs that Ben had been feeding. Seeing Ben in trouble, the dogs attacked the officer and bit him. However, the officer had a gun and shot both dogs dead. By then, Ben had recovered and attacked the officer again. Meanwhile, Ben's father became concerned about his son and decided to check the police station to make sure everything was okay. But the demon inside the lady stopped Ben's father from going. Despite the warning, Ben's father decided to go check for himself, and he went down to Abi's basement. As he entered, he found the dead body of Abi's husband, who had committed suicide, and nearby, Abi's own dead body, left by the demon. The demon had abandoned her body and was now inside Ben's father's girlfriend. Ben's father finally understood, but just then, the lady, who was possessed, attacked him. She first stabbed Ben's father and threw him aside. But Ben's father was lucky. His son was still alive and arrived just in time. Ben used a gun to shoot and kill the lady, who was possessed by the demon. He began to run away with his father. It was shown that the demon was now leaving his body. However, the demon needed a human body to survive, so it quickly fled deep into the forest. Ben, now with his father, was moving forward when he realized that he hadn't seen his younger brother in a day. He immediately understood that the demon must have captured his brother as well. Ben then called Milani and, together, they went into the forest. They arrived at the same place, near the cave beneath the tree where the demon had once resided. Ben suspected that the demon had gathered all the children there. He told Milani to bring something to set on fire and said, If I don't come out within 10 minutes, you must burn this entire place down. Ben started to move slowly into the cave beneath the tree. The place was dangerous, and after walking for a while, Ben found his brother and Malini's sister. But at that moment, the dangerous demon appeared and attacked him. Fortunately, Ben had a gun, which distracted the demon. He managed to get his brother and Malini's younger sister out, and he himself managed to escape as well. They quickly set the whole area on fire, and the demon likely burned to death within it. Everything seemed to be fine now. The next day, Ben was heading back home with his family. Ben's father was also ready to return to his ex-wife. Malini said goodbye to Ben and gave him flowers. But when Ben moved forward with his family, he noticed that the flowers Malini gave him were made of plastic. This made him realize that the demon must have already taken control of Malini, because if she had given him real flowers, they would have wilted, and he would have known immediately. Ben could only guess that the demon was now inside Malini's body. He left the town and we saw Malini with a strange smile on her face, taking some children in a boat out into the middle of the sea. This confirmed that the demon had indeed taken control of her body. And that's where our story ends.